What's up, everybody? This is your host, Justin David Carl, aka Dragon, your favorite life alchemist. So, this is another special episode, version 2.0 of upgrades. So, Fit Rich Life Upgrade 2.0. I have two of my great friends here with me, both previous guests on the show. We have Cody Berman, who is one of my financially independent friends. He became a millionaire at the ripe young age of 25. He's the co-host of the Financial Independence podcast show and just a really awesome dude. We also have James Lowery, who is the man behind the couple behind Rethink the Rat Race, content creators, real estate investors, and he quit his job at age 29. And super excited to have them both on the show to talk about really all areas of life that we've upgraded over the last 3 to 6 months. So we're going to talk about physical upgrades, mental upgrades, emotional upgrades, even spiritual upgrades if we go that deep, including things like supplements, workout routines, books that we've been reading that have really empowered our life, and a whole lot more. So without further ado, I'm just going to check in with my co-podcasters today. James, how you doing and where are you calling in from?
So I am doing great, Justin, and I am actually calling in from Limassol, Cyprus.
Hell yeah. How long you been there, brother?
So we've been here about a week. We've got another week to go, but we're as of today, we're 1 month into like a month and a half trip across Europe. So
That's awesome. We're going to have to circle back on how you're actually doing that, because if I understand your situation correctly, you're actually making money while you're doing this, right?
that is exactly right. So that's the whole goal, is to make money wherever you are in the world.
I love that. We'll definitely circle back and dig into that. Cody, where are you calling in from, brother?
I am actually at home right now in between two trips. So I just came back from a trip in Florida, and then actually in 5 days from now, me and I was going to say fiance, but I actually haven't even dropped this news yet. I'll be able to show you guys. We got legally married
Hell yeah.
yesterday. So now she's my wife Lauren. But we're basically we did the paperwork in the States. We are going to Bali to do like the actual ceremony, and it's kind of like an elopement / honeymoon, because we're going to be there for 3 weeks just hanging out and also making money while we're traveling. But yeah, man, you guys are the first like online people I've been able to share that news with, which is really exciting. So that's kind of what's going on with me. But right now I'm just in Massachusetts at home in between getting ready.
Awesome, man. Congratulations. That like
Thank you.
seriously warms my heart. Like I just love when my like good guy friends like are married, cuz like I'm just like I like to know that they're in relationships that are committed and that are just really empowering. And you know so man, I'm super stoked for you, and I feel honored that you're on my show the day after you did it. So congrats,
Appreciate it.
brother.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy timing.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
So I'm in Santa Cruz County, also at home, but just super stoked because like spring is finally arriving. And tomorrow, two of my good friends are going to meet me for some epic rollerblading through Santa Cruz and by the beach. And so really excited for that. And, I mentioned this on the last upgrade episode, but, one of the reasons I moved to Santa Cruz was to get closer to the beach and really upgrade my lifestyle. And it has been totally delivering to the point where my birthday was back in April 30th, so a few weeks ago. And I just did a staycation and totally used the opportunity to take some time away from work, but really explore where I'm living. Went hiking, mapped out this like epic rollerblading route for me and my like hardcore rollerblader friends, and just really exploring the restaurants around here and really loving where I live. So excited to have you guys on. Let's talk about how are you guys making money while you're like traveling? So, James, let's start with you, brother.
A lot of real estate investments, and actually Cody was the one that helped me come up with this term. We're coining it as geohacking, and it's gonna take off any minute now. Everybody's gonna start using the term geohacking, but essentially what we're doing is we are using our short-term rentals and our long-term rentals as well. But the idea is if I can rent out a place for less than my place costs per night, then it makes me more money to continue traveling. So just like the math's pretty easy. For example, if I can rent my place out for $100 a night on Airbnb or any other short-term rental platform, and I can find a place for less than $100 per night, then it actually makes me more money to continue traveling as opposed to blocking off that place and staying there myself at home, we'll call it.
That's genius. I absolutely love that. And just for further context, your home where you actually live is just one of several rental properties you own, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have 5 short-term rentals, and we just kind of block one off for a month or two at a time, stay in Alabama, and then otherwise we're traveling most of the time.
I love that. So, do you have a stationary home, or you just rotate between your like middle and long term properties that you have?
Yeah, mostly just the long-term properties, and we do have a place that we pretty much consistently rent year over year now in Florida. But it's not a place that we actually stay long term. It's a place that we just use to crash at when we're snowbirding.
Love that. Awesome. And Cody, are you doing something similar? Or are you doing something different?
I am doing something different. So I am not making money from my primary residence. And what I am doing though is I have long-term rentals, I have short-term rentals, I'm selling digital products, I have an online course. I'm doing all these things that are location independent. So even if I'm traveling in Bali or even if I'm traveling in Europe, these things are still making me money. And yeah, that's the cool thing about them is you can kind of put them on autopilot and set up these systems, set up these processes. James is actually the one who got me to start investing in real estate, and he was one who kind of helped me set up a lot of these processes. Where now I have 13 total units, and it takes me probably 3 to 4 hours a month total to manage, and it's bringing in like close to 15 to 17 grand gross revenue, which is just amazing. Plus, on top of all the online stuff that I can manage from afar, and that's mostly on autopilot. So yeah, I can take months off and travel wherever, and as long as I have my laptop with me to handle any emergencies, I can make money while traveling.
Awesome. I love that. So, one of the things I ask most my guests that are in real estate is just about my own situation. And I probably know the answer, but I'm just curious if you guys are going to tell me anything different than the other guests have said. So I earn like a lot of money per year. And I always wonder if I should get more into real estate. Like I have one property, but basically it's paying for my mom's like retirement. She lives in it, and we rent out rooms in the house, and it basically just covers her cost of living. So I'm not really. I co-own that with my younger brother. We're not really like netting anything from it, but it's one of those things like when my mom like moves on to the next phase, hopefully not for a very long time, that will be income that comes in, but we don't really have to manage it because like she's pretty much there, and we'll just step in and help out as needed. But I'm always like, should I get into real estate? Should I get a couple properties just to like further diversify, or should I just continue to like earn lots of money and like stock it away in the S&P 500 or VTSAX and like continue to do the things that really light me up and inspire me, like the podcast and my fitness and money coaching program. So I'm curious, I want your honest thoughts. Like, I know you guys are both biased because you're in real estate, but I'm just curious what you think. James, you want to go first?
Sure.
I was keeping the natural order of things. I know James has been after Justin, so I didn't want to butt in.
Yeah. So what I would say is it's actually like more of a personality type. And it takes a certain type of person to not necessarily invest in real estate, but to manage real estate. Everybody can invest, but you could do exactly what you're doing with the S&P 500 and just pour it into a REIT or pour it into a syndication, as long as you're vetting the syndication appropriately and stuff like that, as opposed to owning the individual properties yourself. With that being said, I like real estate, but I also understand that it can be a little more not hands on. It's more hands on than the S&P 500 for sure. But if that doesn't light you up, then absolutely don't invest in real estate. You can continue to sock away more money, and you're never going to have to deal with the tenant. You're never going to have to deal with an eviction. You're never going to have to deal with any of this stuff. That being said, I like real estate, and it sounds like you would like a challenge. And sometimes I like to just challenge myself to do things that are absolutely unnecessary, but it would be a little fun project. And so it would be fun to tell about, or, give me something to kind of grow developmentally wise. So it sounds like that might be something you would be interested in doing. Even though it doesn't tick a lot of the other boxes, it is a challenge that you might be willing to accept.
Yeah, I love that.
I want to concur with James there on some of that stuff. I think if you're doing it for the money reason, if you're already crushing it and making a ton of money in sales, like there's no reason for you to go and try to find a duplex and try to make $500 a month in cash flow. Like there's just no logical reason for you to do that from an economic standpoint. But if you want to challenge, if you're like, I want to try this real estate thing, I want to figure out how to fix a property, I want to figure out how to get the right tenants, I want to figure out how to set up the management systems, then by all means go for it. Like I'm like James, where I just like doing new things. Like I just recently sold my first flip. Didn't need to do a flip. I didn't need the money, but it was fun. It was something new. And it was something that I definitely don't regret. And I'm probably going to be doing more of it in the future. But I'm kind of slowing down on buying like duplexes and triplexes just because I'm making so much more money with like the online stuff that I'm just shoveling that money into more real estate exposure, like James was saying, into syndications mostly. I have some REITs as well. But yeah, it totally depends on you, Justin. I think if you do want the challenge, absolutely go for it, man. But if you're just doing it to be like smart, like, quote unquote, smart with money, then just keep crushing it in sales, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I think syndication is probably something that would be like interesting and a good way to diversify my my money, but wouldn't take too much energy, because right now I want to invest all my extra energy in growing the podcast and growing my coaching program, because that's like where my heart is. And the real estate is more just like my lifelong fascination with money and wealth, but it's not at like the top of my list right now. It's more like I always love to make money and create more wealth, but right now I'm just really passionate about making an impact in people's lives through the coaching and the podcast. One thing I'm thinking is my younger brother, he is actually really wanting to get more into real estate. So I'm considering kind of being like the money man while he goes after and finds the properties, manages them, because he can actually do construction. Like he literally, has all the skills to, remodel places and whatnot. So that's kind of like the route I'm looking at. And I also really just love the idea of like building more wealth within the family. And if I can empower kind of another family member to speed up his own financial independence journey, like that would have a lot of meaning for me behind just like making extra money. So,
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna say that definitely like hits home with me, because I've hired my mom to be a cleaner in our short-term rentals so that my sisters and I don't have to give her money, and so like I'm essentially funding her lifestyle through my own real estate investing. So I'm kind of keeping it in the family very similar way.
All right, we are back. You may or may not have noticed a little bit of changing around of cameras and whatnot. We just had a little bit of technical difficulty. So I actually love when this stuff happens, because when some of my favorite podcasters show kind of like the behind the scenes of like the stupid, fucked up, technology things that happen when you're doing online podcasting, it makes them more real and interesting to me. And I just think it's so awesome that the three of us are able to connect across the world in 3 different time zones and able to do this. So instead of like getting frustrated with technology, I'm just going to be super grateful for the fact that I get to connect with you two guys and share your energy and your insight and your wisdom with the audience. So let's jump back in. I'm going to start off with a really major upgrade that I've done before, but since I moved, I haven't done in a long time. And during my staycation in Santa Cruz County, I went ahead and got a library card. And so I have like 11 books right here, and reading is one of my favorite things to do, always has been. And I just love having a library card because it's an excuse to, for me it's like being a kid and going into a candy store, and it's just like, oh my god, I want to read this, I want to read this, and I'll just like, I can be there for hours. And even if I only read like 3 pages of a book I check out, if it has like any like insight or kind of up levels my thinking, like to me that's like awesome. So full transparency, I still buy books, definitely Audible, because I love to listen to audiobooks as part of my morning routine, but I love to like read paper books in the afternoon and evening, and I also have a Kindle and I read on that too. So I would say that's like a huge upgrade for me, just because the library is something I grew up going to as a child, and going there just like brought back all those like good, like feel good childhood memories, just as like well as the excitement of like having a bunch of new books to dig into. So that's my first upgrade. I would say that's mental and emotional, maybe even a little spiritual, connecting back to my inner child. James, over to you. What's your first upgrade that you want to share with us?
On your upgrade and mention that you can actually use an app called Libby. There's another one called Overdrive, but Libby is a little more popular, and you can get a ton of books on there. It uses your local library, and you're essentially downloading audiobooks the same way, or you can do ebooks. I'm not an ebook guy. I hate reading on my phone. I absolutely hate it. And so I like to listen to audiobooks as well. And my wife and I, we go around and we like collect library cards, essentially like memberships to libraries. And so anytime we're like staying somewhere for more than a couple weeks, to the point that we can try to get a library card, we kind of finagle our way in. So the way that other people share Netflix logins, we share library cards, because the more libraries you get, the more content you have available. And so some libraries might not have this book, but another one might. And so you can kind of bounce around, or between the two libraries, somebody's going to have a book available that you're wanting to listen to. And so that to me is like a key part, especially with us traveling now. And I just download a couple of audiobooks, and as we're getting on a flight, I can just like zone out. I don't have to worry about like some kid crying. I'm not watching the newest Marvel movie. I'm just like focusing on what I'm listening to and getting to learn and getting to, use that time that otherwise would just be a waste.
I just want to make sure I understand that correctly. So I'm a huge fan of Libby as well, but are you saying that you can plug in more than one library card system
Oh yeah.
and like then get access to even more books, as well as like more copies of books, so you can check something out sooner?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So I bet we have 6 or 7 different libraries right now on our Libby app.
Wow, I fucking love that. So wait a minute, do you have to like go to the library and get a card, or do you like try to convince like a friend to like lend you their library card? Like how do you do this?
Both, but so we lived in St. Louis for a little while, and we had a library card, but this was before Libby existed, and then our library card expired. So from 3 time zones away, we called them and we're like, "Hey, listen, like we'd love to be able to renew our thing," and they're like, "You have to come in," and I just like sweet talked them into renewing it online. And so then we got access to the entire St. Louis library, which is huge. And then when we're snowbirding in Florida, we joined every library that we can down there, because each municipality kind of has their own library. And so that's what we do. And my sister lives in Tuscaloosa, which is got the University of Alabama, and so their library is really extensive because of that as well. And so we've stolen her library card. So that's the way that we do it.
I fucking love that, dude. You just took my like upgrade and just like 10x it. Yeah, yeah, you upgrade my
You
upgrade.
upgraded
Hell yeah. Cody, how about you, brother?
it. Well, I mean, I was gonna do a different upgrade, but just on the same topic, I'm people always ask me like, oh, you must read like a ton of books. It's weird. I don't read that many books. I am a huge podcast guy. Like, I love listening to podcasts. I probably crush like 15 to 20 hours a week at least of podcasts, because I just do it while I'm multitasking, while I'm working out, while I'm doing cardio, like all that stuff. So I was actually surprised, Justin, when you held up that stack of books, because I know like you're always, I see you on Strava, you're just crushing cardio, you're rollerblading all the time, and like you can't really just bring a book around and read while you're rollerblading through the streets of California. But yeah, I'm a huge podcast guy, man. But I'll go to my actual hack. So my life hack that I've been trying to focus on a lot now, especially now that I'm married, is just like kind of always going back to the why. And I think that it was not that I like struggled a ton and went off the deep end and like lost my wife and the kids and nothing that serious, but I have like found myself a couple of times as I started to make more money and found more success in business, like I'll be like working later for no reason whatsoever other than to make extra money that I don't need. Or like I'll be focusing on this project that doesn't need to be done today that I want to finish because it will make me more money. And coming back to like, why do I need this money anyway? Why did I start this whole journey? It's like to spend time with loved ones, to do the things I enjoy, which is not being on the computer at 9 p.m. Kind of coming back and grounding myself. It's something that has definitely improved in the last couple of months. And I think probably like toward the beginning of this year, like beginning of 2023, end of 2022, I was like some nights working till 9 or 10 o'clock, and I don't need the money. I don't need to do that. It was just like, I'm obsessed. There it is. Find your why. I was just like obsessed with the business part of things, which is fine. Like that's why I'm doing this whole thing. Like I could stop working. I am financially free, but I do genuinely enjoy building businesses. But I think being really intentional about setting up those guardrails, I'm sure you have a lot of people in your audience like that, Justin, who are just like go-getters, grinders, and sometimes you just can't shut it off. So kind of coming back and grounding myself in my why lately has been really, really important and really, really helpful.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's funny. So, um, I would say during like a regular work day, I'm not like necessarily reading a paper book that much, but like on the weekends or kind of when I have downtime, reading is one of those like an actual paper book or digital ebook, like because I read both fiction and nonfiction. Like I read a lot of fantasy and science fiction, like when I go to sleep, because it helps me kind of like unplug and relax. But it's funny because I literally, this is like one of the first books, the Find Your Why with Simon Sinek, that I just been reading. And just as like a note, there's a really cool exercise. This is for you, Cody, as well as the audience. There's a really cool exercise in here that really empowers you to kind of figure out what your why is. And you kind of like do this, this thing where you look back at kind of some of the most like significant events in your life, and they could be both good and bad. So they have this like chart where there's like a line above the line is like, this is a really positive significant event, and then below the line is a really like maybe not so positive, like a negative event that was significant. But all these like significant events, like they shape us, they you start to see themes, they teach us stuff. And by kind of like mapping those out, you're able to, and this is really for someone who's looking for their why, you're able to start to see like what the kind of through line or the golden thread that like links these different experiences together, and that will help you illuminate like what your why is. So super powerful exercise. And I just got to double click on the podcasting because I also listen to a fuck ton of podcasts. Like, so my whole thing is I listen to audiobooks in the morning as I'm getting ready to go to the gym. So I'll spend in while I'm driving to the gym. So like that's anywhere between 20 and 60 minutes, depending on how fast I'm moving. And then the rest of the free time when I'm like making food or cleaning up or driving back from the gym, I listen to podcasts. So like I also crush a ton of podcasts. And the reason I want to double click on this is because I want to know what your guys' favorite podcasts are right now. And I'll share mine as well. But since you brought up the topic, Cody, I'm going to go back to you. Then we'll go James and circle back to me.
Well, I mean, number one spot, financial independence show for sure. No, I'm just kidding. and then your show, Justin, and then no. But the podcast that I have really started to listen to, so a couple of years ago, it was like almost exclusively money podcasts. I was like all in the, I'm not even going to name their names because I don't really listen to them anymore, but it was like all money and financial independence. But once I kind of, I don't want to say gut past that, but now since I have reached FI, my interests have kind of gotten more into like business and bettering life. And so some of the ones I listen to are more philosophical. I'm not going to call, I mean, I guess you could call Tim Ferriss philosophical. Love his podcast. Huge fan of Sam Harris Making Sense. My First Million is a business podcast I listen to. I like Amy Porterfield's Online Marketing Made Easy. I listen to Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income. I know I'm missing some ones on here. These are just the ones that are coming to the top of my mind. Anyone else while I'm blanking have any good ones that they listen to on the reg?
Over to you, James.
I'm going to pull up my phone. I'll cheat.
Yeah, and we'll put all these in the show notes, which you can find at fitrichlife.com/podcast. But we'll put all links to all these podcasts because I always want to like support the other people that really inspire like me and the people that come on this show. So James, how about you?
Yeah, a lot like Cody, when I was on the financial independence journey, I was crushing so many finance podcasts. Like I was re-listening to everything all the time. And now I'll kind of scroll through those. And if I see someone that I know and that, or anybody that I want to like learn their story, then I'll still listen to it. But honestly, I don't listen to any financial podcasts as much. It's more of like a full kind of rounded thing as well. Same idea. But I really enjoy The Moth. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with it. It's like a storytelling podcast, and people get on stage, and it's a recording of their storytelling, and so it's like oration and stuff like that. And I'm trying to do better about speaking, and so that's one of the reasons why I started listening to it. I really like Freakonomics. It's still some money, but it's really like society as well in that. And I'm interested in a few business podcasts as well, like the Online Course Creator show. I've launched a course with the help of Cody, and so I'm trying to read that and learn more about copy and funnels and just the business aspect of it.
One person I forgot to mention that you probably know from like the gym space, Justin, is Alex Hormozy. His podcast, The Game. The dude's like a business genius, and then he had like this whole gym launch business before with a $42 million exit. That guy's just a friggin' freak of nature. Like, not only is he like jacked with like 7% body fat, but he's making like $200 million a year, and everything that guy says is audio gold. So he's a podcast I consume on the reg.
Yeah. So love Alex Hormozy. Like I got introduced to him actually by my business partner a year ago, and I've just really been diving into his content. Like I remember a couple months ago, I literally just like went and listened to probably 5 to 7 different interviews of him on different people's podcasts because I was just like going nuts. And I would just like search like his name on Spotify and just like go through it, and like he is a beast, like a business
beast,
a business
insane
fitness beast. And it's just very interesting how people are shaped and driven. And he has a really interesting story, which I won't go into on this show, but I highly recommend if you're interested in business. Alex Hormozy is a fucking gold mine. Some ones that I'm going to add. So I've really been similar to you guys. Like I'm just not listening to that much personal finance or financial independence podcast anymore. The first 2 to 3 years that I got into the kind of the FI movement, I was like you guys, like every episode, every show, like that's all I consume was that content. But now some of the ones that I've been more frequently now, obviously Tim Ferriss is actually the person who inspired me to start podcasting. Like when he first started out with the podcast, that's when I identified like I want to do this. And I've always been a big fan of him because I feel some like similarity, like, working in Silicon Valley and just kind of like the mix of kind of fitness with like entrepreneurship. So that's one of them. I've also been getting more into some like fitness podcasts. I really enjoy Mark Bell's Power Project, and it's actually Mark Bell and 2 other guys. So it's 3 people that host the show, and they just have all sorts of like fitness influencers come on. They talk about all aspects of fitness. They even like dive into like, like stuff around like people who are like, abusing or using steroids, and like, kind of the more hardcore, stuff. And I'm just interested in that space so much as like a fitness coach. And it's really fun for me to just like, they have other coaches on, they have other people that have built up like different like fitness products, and other kind of like big names in the fitness community. So that's been a lot of fun for me. Listen to Mark Bell's Power Project. I've been a longtime fan of Ben Greenfield. It used to be Ben Greenfield Fitness. It's now Ben Greenfield Life. And I just like to listen, even though like he's like predominantly, like he's not carnivore, but he like, he's kind of more like keto carnivore with like plants. And I just, even though I'm like vegan and I support a plant-based lifestyle, I like to hear other sides that kind of like challenge my own thinking. And because ultimately I don't believe there's like one path for everybody. I believe there's a path that's optimized for each person, and it's upon us to really find what that is. And I just like being exposed. He's also like a super hardcore biohacker, so like some of the weird shit that I've like incorporated into my life is from me, because he goes super fringe, like like hardcore fringe biohacking. And it's just fun for me to learn about that. Like I probably implement maybe like 5% of the fringe shit he talks about, but it's just like fun and exciting for me to learn about. And then another one that I've really been loving is Modern Wisdom. It's I forget his last name, but Chris something or other. But it's just a really good show, and for me, it's been fun to listen to him because he's really starting to get huge. Like I think he just hit like 8 or 900,000 subscribers on YouTube, and doing a lot of downloads. And one of the things that's really meaningful to me is just understanding his journey. Like basically, he did 3 episodes a week for like 3 or 4 years before his show actually finally started to take off. And as someone who's in their first, basically completing my first year podcasting, it's like, okay, cool. As long as I keep doing the work, at some point, like this podcast will grow a lot faster than it has been. And I haven't been stressed at all about the growth, because for me, this is just such a great opportunity to connect with people that inspire me and connect with my friends and see what they're up to, as well as just like share them with the world. So I've been loving the journey, but it's like, I'm like both you guys, like I want all of my endeavors like to generate money, because like why not have fun and make money?
Agreed. And same with the podcasting too. That's like my favorite part of having a podcast is I get to sit down and have an hour plus long conversation with like people that would never give me the time of day if I just hit them up and said, "Hey, can I pick your brain for an hour?" Absolutely not. But
Yeah.
because I have a podcast, it's
Yeah.
like, come on my podcast and we'll have a public conversation. I still get to ask you the same stuff, and now we both win.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Cool. So I'm going to pass it over to James. James, what's your next upgrade?
That's a great question. So we've been traveling a ton, and so I'm trying to think of what my next upgrade would be, just like life wise, not necessarily. I'm not sure if this is part of the life hack, the money hack, the
I have a question,
um,
James, for fitness. I don't know if it's an upgrade, but like I see you doing reps of 405 on deadlift like while you're traveling. Like how the heck do you still get all this time to get in the gym and crush it?
Yeah, okay. So that's something that we definitely just prioritize,
Okay.
right? And so it depends on where we're at, what the gym is like, and stuff like that. So I didn't bring like my belt with me, my wrist straps, and so before we came, I was like really, really pushing it hard, and I had thought about doing another powerlifting meet, and so I've been really like chasing those numbers, and so then when we started traveling, I didn't bring any of my gear with me, so I just have to prioritize finding a good gym, and we just pay for a day at a time or a week at a time, depending on where we're at and how long we're there. And so typically, what we'll do is we'll take a day and try to go and hike and do something like that if there's an outdoor activity. Another thing we've been doing a lot of is like Airbnb experiences. And so we went and kayaked one day on the coast of Portugal, and then another day we went and took surfing lessons. And so it's like physical activities that are still showing us like the beautiful parts of the country.
Hmm.
But then on the other days, we're like, okay, like let's go and spend an hour and a half at the gym in the morning, and then we can spend the the whole afternoon or the rest of the day exploring another area. And so that's just like something that we've been trying to prioritize while we're traveling. So yeah, I have been still deadlifting and squatting and benching whenever I get a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of weight, brother. I don't fuck around with that kind of weight anymore now that I'm in my 40s. But I remember when I was doing that, and it was a lot of fun. I just wanted to double click on that because one of my honest to God favorite things about traveling is going to new gyms in new cities. Like it is so like basic, but it's like if I don't do fuck else all like if I just go to a new city and go to the like a new gym, I'm like that was a fucking great trip. Like it's like so easy to please me. And I remember when I was like hardcore five, my first 2 years super frugal, I was like fuck that, I'm not going to pay for a gym. Like while I'm traveling, like I'll work out, like I'll outside, I'll figure it out. And now like I'm really been focused on like living my fit rich life, and it's like hell yeah, I'm going to invest in the gym like while I'm traveling, because like maybe it's $15 $20 for a day pass, or like $80 for a week pass. I'm like dude, that is money well spent, because that is always one of my favorite memories from every trip. Like I just caught myself yesterday thinking about my trip to I'm totally Mount Shasta for my 1 year anniversary with my wife, and it was just like this random ass kind of like homey looking gym, and but I just loved it. It was like so much fun to be there. All this equipment that I like, some of it similar to what I have access to, some new things I didn't have, and it was just like one of my favorite memories from that trip. So James, over to you, brother.
Say like that's something that we, because we prioritize it so much now when we're looking for hotels, the gym really dictates whether or not we pick the place, almost 100%, but at least a very large part of it. So recently we were just in Corfu, and we had the MX fine hotels and resorts experience that we had to use, but we decided to use it to take advantage of it. And the gym is what swayed us toward the place that we went as opposed to the other one. And it had a cold dunking pool, it had a sauna, it had a steam room, and the gym itself was like incredibly nice with cables and Smith machine and barbells and dumbbells and all this stuff. And it was like there was another place that had a very nice facility, but it didn't have a great gym. And so we were like, okay, we're picking the place with the good gym. And so now that kind of dictates where we go. Otherwise, we're not always staying in Airbnbs, but sometimes even the Airbnb that we pick, we'll look and map and see how close it is to a gym that looks like a good gym in the area. And we want to make it a very convenient trip for us. And so that might even determine which Airbnbs we pick.
Yeah.
James, you remember?
Go ahead, brother.
Remember Armor Gym in Merida?
Yeah.
Oh my
So
God.
we
Last year we went on this trip to Mexico, and we looked around, and like all the gyms are not good in this area. Shout out to Armor Gym, not sponsoring this episode, unfortunately, but this gym didn't have AC. It was 100 degrees. And I'm sorry for any Mexicans who might be listening to this podcast, but I don't know about your re-racking weights policy, because there was just a pile of dumbbells like in the middle of the floor, 20s, 80s, 35s. Like you guys had to shuffle through the pile to find the weight that you wanted to use. All of them are different. It was so, but it was a great experience. Like I'm always going to remember that gym. So I totally concur with you on that one, Justin. It's all about the gym experience every time you travel.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So I went to Merida as well for actually part of my 40th birthday. Went to there in Tulum, and there was a gym there, but it was like this whole ordeal to even get access to the gym, because it's still kind of coming out of like COVID or whatever, and they wouldn't let me get even a day pass or a membership unless I was like had a bank account with a Mexican bank. And I was like, I can't give you cash. I can't do anything. But fortunately, what I was able to do was my Airbnb host, like shout out to him, like he connected me. He kind of had this guy who like would just do random errands for him, like, fix things at the Airbnbs, like go do random like grocery shopping for us and other things. And he ended up coming and paying for it on his card, and I gave him money. But like I'll never forget that experience, because like it was this like I had to like, I wake up crazy early, so like I'm doing all this, figuring this all out while my wife is still sleeping. But I had to like walk to the gym, which was like a full like, probably a mile plus, so like 20 plus minute walk there. Then I had to like contact the Airbnb host and like figure it all out, and I probably spent like 4 hours just trying to figure out how to get access to this gym. And it was actually, a really nice gym. So there are nice gyms in Merida as well. But like, I'll never forget that experience, because it was actually hilarious. It was challenging. It was like, motherfucker, like how the fuck, like I just want to work out. What the hell? But then it ended up being like a really fun adventure. So I just wanted to share that one.
It's all about the memories, man.
Yeah.
One fitness kind of, I don't know if it's a hack, but just something that happened to me. So I dislocated my shoulder back in February, actually, snowboarding. And this is a crazy analogy, but when like you're like stuffed up and you can't sleep and you're like, this sucks. Like, I just don't appreciate when I have two clear nostrils at night. That's how it was for me. Like right after I get injured, I'm like, oh my God, I take working out for granted so much. Like it is so awesome to be able to go to the gym and do all this stuff. Cause then when I fucked up my shoulder, like I'm just doing legs and abs every day. And I'm like, I miss pressing. I miss pulling. Like I miss these aspects of the gym that I never thought of them as special before, but it's given me like a newfound appreciation as I've been kind of on the upswing. It's still not 100%. But I've been able to start incorporating new stuff in my workout with a newfound appreciation for those exercises, which before was just like, fuck it, it's chest day. But now it's like, yes, it's chest day.
Yeah. Yeah. The one comment on that. So one of the things I've really, been working with my coaching clients as well as it's just been my own journey, is a lot of people think when they get injured, they can't work out. And I'm like, you can work out. You just have to learn how to work out around your injury so that you give it plenty of space and rest time to recover. But there's like tons of other parts of your body that you can work out. So I love to hear that, Cody, that despite dislocating your shoulder, you continue to work out. Because I think
legs
a lot,
and abs, baby.
yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, I guess I can't work out because I hurt this one part of my body. And I'm like, no, like you just don't train that part of your body and you let it like heal while you work on other parts of the body. So
You're trying to tell me that I can bench after I stub my toe?
Exactly. Yeah. So speaking of fitness, kind of tips, tools, strategies, one of the ones that I want to share is I've really kind of been exploring like eating out more frequently while also still really maintaining my fitness. And I believe like you can always have like your cake and eat it too. You just have to like be strategic. So one of the things that I've been playing around with kind of leading up to even implementing the strategy is I started doing like a 24-hour fast, like maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, where I basically like I'd have dinner the night before and then I wouldn't eat again until dinner the following day. And so I started training myself to be able to like fast like a full 24 hours. And I didn't realize I was going to implement this as part of a strategy I did later. So recently, because like I've really been wanting to explore a lot of the restaurants around here. And, for anyone wondering, it's infinitely easier to dial in like, sub 10% body fat and really lean physique when you are eating at home and tracking everything like to the gram. It's a lot harder when you're eating out because you have to like estimate and you're more like tempted to just go a little crazy and eat more or not as healthfully as you could. So this new trick that I've been doing when I eat out is I literally, that will just be my only meal for the day, but I'll fucking like order like 2-3 plates. Usually it's 3 to 4 plates between me and my wife, and I eat 70 to 80% of the food because my wife like eats like a little bird. And what I've done is, so I'll basically fast, and this is going to be like the funny part, is I will have like 2 to 3 zucchini on the way to the restaurant to like fill me up with fiber, because I have a massive appetite. Like no joke, I could eat no problem like 10,000 calories in a day. Like I actually used to do that stupidly and wonder why I couldn't get abs, because like I'd eat clean 6 days a week, then I'd have a cheat day. Then I finally started working with a fitness coach, and he had me tracking, and on my cheat days I was eating like 7 to 10,000 calories, so basically destroying all the work that I'd done earlier in the week. And that's why I couldn't get a six pack for so long. But so basically I'll eat 3 or 4 zucchinis. Sometimes I chop them up and put some like salt and pepper and nutritional yeast on it. It tastes super good. Or sometimes I'll just eat them like a carrot. Like, and so like, but then I'm like, by the time I get the food, I'm already starting to feel pretty full. And then I can kind of like, I kind of like to stuff myself. Like, I'll just like, I like to feel super fucking full, not to the point where it hurts, but to the point where it's like, okay, like this is like, if we're going to go for a walk after this meal, it's going to be a nice slow walk. So that's kind of been my strategy, and I still track everything, but I've just found that, or like estimating, because that kind of really empowers me to stay sub 10% year round. So that's kind of like my new kind of like, life hack or fitness hack around like eating out and still staying like super lean. It is super random. And like the other days, I'm not like fasting for 24 hours or only eating one meal a day. But I just found for me, it's a really useful strategy to achieve both my fitness goals as well as my like rich life goals of like enjoying eating out and eating like a fair amount of like delicious entrees. So that's kind of my fitness upgrade. I'll pass it off to either one of you who want to go with your next upgrade.
I'll hop in. So my fitness upgrade was actually going to be very similar. So for one, I just want to like kind of circle back, and that's a perfect segue because I've been doing intermittent fasting for like over a decade at this point, and it was the same idea. I read this whole study about how it was great for MMA fighters cutting weight and gaining weight and all this stuff, and I thought I was going to be an MMA fighter, so that's why I started doing it. But a lot of the same ideas, like skipping a meal, fasting for 16 to 18 hours, and then my post workout meal, I was just like overindulging. And so I got to be fully satiated. I got to overeat. And this is when I was kind of in a bulk phase. And so I got to eat just a ton of food and feel just completely full. And I had never done that before on the typical diet. And so, anyways, my current fitness hack is because we're traveling so much and I want to try all the foods. What we've been doing is we will go to a restaurant, my wife and I, and we're eating out every meal. And so we'll go to a restaurant, especially for dinners. We will split an appetizer, we'll split a salad, and we'll split an entree. And that way, and then we tell ourselves, if this is not going to be enough food, we can always order more. And we haven't ordered more once. So it's just been an easy way to keep our calories kind of on track. And we get to try different things as opposed to just going in and us each picking one thing, and we get to try one thing there. And so this has been an opportunity for us to kind of like, and then afterwards we can go and get like a gelato or like some type of dessert that's like local to the area. Like specifically in Portugal, they have the little pastel de natas and stuff like that. And so that's been our fitness hack, and that's been an easy way for me to stay lean. And we're always staying in like just the happenstance of the way that we travel. We usually stay at like beachfront towns and properties and stuff like that. And so I'm always happy to go to the beach and pull my shirt off. And so I'm not having to worry about the fact that I've been, overindulging a month bouncing across Europe. And so I get to still be the lean guy on the beach, even though I'm doing that.
I love that. I just had a question. So, of the percentage of food you and your wife order, like what percent do you eat versus her?
It depends on what the item is, but typically I would say just over the course of a meal, I'm probably having anywhere between 60 to 70% of what we're eating. Now there are times that like she'll be like, I really like this, and so I'll end up having, more of the appetizer or the salad, or she'll end up having more of the salad because she just likes salads more than I do. She's the one that got me eating salad, so I'm like very thankful for that because like initially I'd never ate anything green, and so now I definitely overeat salads and I really enjoy them a lot. So I'm happy that she's opened my eyes to that. But typically we're definitely not splitting things 50-50. Like that never happens.
Love that.
It's the best part about having a significant other, right? Being
Yeah,
able to finish
exactly.
their food.
Seriously, it is the fucking best.
I love it. We were actually out the other night and I got like a smaller entree because we had like an appetizer and stuff too. And she's like, "You sure that's gonna be enough food?" I'm like, yeah, because I'm going to eat half of yours too. And she's like, no, you're not. And I ate half of hers too. I don't know if you want
Typically,
to
their
stay.
eyes are bigger than their stomach. Sorry, go ahead.
Always, always. I don't know if you want to stay on fitness, Justin. I have some other stuff here. I just want to be.
There's one thing I just want to add, and then we'll go back. So this is on the fasting part. So recently I kind of been exploring supplementing with electrolytes, because when you're fasting, oftentimes, one of the easy ways to kind of just blunt your appetite, or make you feel like less like you're concerned about the fact that you haven't been eating for a while. And I've just found like electrolytes like make it a lot easier. So this is a brand, I'm not sponsored by them. It's Key Nutrients, and they make a bunch of different flavors. See if I can get the camera to focus on it. Yeah, and the best part about this one is it has 0 calories in it, which a lot of the ones which everyone knows, like Element and that they have, and it's not a lot of calories, it's like 10 calories per pack. But like I'm always like optimizing like my calories, and so like I'm trying this one out, and it has, in addition to the potassium, sodium, um, and magnesium, it also has a bunch of other good stuff in it. It's super cheap on Amazon, comes in a ton of different flavors. And like sometimes if I'm like, oh, like, I'm kind of am getting hungry, I'll just like put this over some ice and like have it, and it's like suddenly my hunger is like blunted again. And I just want to make a final comment before we kind of like move on to Cody's next tip, and we can move away from fasting and fitness. Fasting is a tool. It is not the like solution for all your life's problems or all your fitness challenges, right? And I always like to point out that like doing something all the time for like 24/7, 365, that makes you inflexible. Like it makes your metabolic flexibility is not there. And so I'm always a proponent of really creating as much metabolic flexibility as you can. So like on any given like week or any given year, I'm probably fasting, intermittent fasting 80 to 90% of the time. But there's plenty of times like I wake up and I'm like, oh, like I need to start eating at 8 o'clock in the morning instead of like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I just want to encourage the audience members who either are into fasting or thinking about getting into it, is like think of it as a fitness tool in your tool belt, along with a bunch of other tools that you can learn to implement. And like, we're here sharing these like fitness tools that we're able to travel with and like make travel even better, but also stay super fit. So just like, this isn't going to solve all your problems. Don't go hardcore and like go like only eat one meal a day for the rest of your life and just like, whatever. It's just like learn to implement it as a tool that you can utilize when it makes sense, but also make sure that you're building up other tools so that you can be both metabolically flexible, but also just your fit, rich life can be very flexible. So over to you, Cody.
I lied. Now I have another one. But I do think that's what it's all about, is being adaptive. Like whether you want to crush it as an entrepreneur or just be good at money or really fit, like you just have to be able to adapt. Like you might not always have the perfect gym. You might hurt your leg. Your business might fail and you might have to start a new one. But like being able to get up and roll with the punches is like why the people who are successful. One more thing, you guys might be like, this is so fucking stupid, but it kind of just clicked with me in like a YouTube video or a podcast I was listening to. But at the gym before, like not every set I would like go until failure. I would on like heavy stuff, but I wouldn't every time. And then I heard this podcast and it was like talking about like thinking about muscles like a balloon. And like if you do 5 reps and you like maybe could have got 6, like you maybe could have got that extra tear in the muscle, because that's what you're doing when you're going to the gym. You're tearing the muscles so they can then rebuild themselves bigger and stronger. And like when it was phrased like that, it just kind of like hit me. And I like before when I would do like a set of 10, I'm like, yeah, maybe I could have got a couple more reps, but I'm like, I'm doing a set of 10 at this weight. And I don't know, it's kind of transformed everything for me. Is now like every single set, whether I'm going for 3 or whether I'm going for 15, like I'm picking a weight, I'm finding the weight that very last rep is like absolute failure. Like my muscle is ripping the shit out of itself. And again, you guys might be like, Cody, this is stupid. Of course, that's what we're always thinking when we work out, but it just was like a light bulb moment for me over the last couple.
Yeah. So I just have to jump in because this is actually something I work on with my clients. So intensity is so fucking important in terms of like creating the physique that you want to have. But there's something that a lot of people are unaware of. The intensity and the total time at really high intensity has to change through different kind of age brackets and as you're in different periods of life. So for example, in my 20s and 30s, I would literally go to failure on every single fucking set for every single fucking exercise. And I could go out, drink, party, get up the next day and do the same thing and do that 7 days a week, 4 weeks a month, fucking 12 months a year. Now in my fucking 40s, like I have to, what I've realized for myself at this age, and this has been something I've been just having to figure out what it is. So basically, for about 10 to 30% of the workout, I can go to failure. So maybe the first 2 or 3 exercises, I can go to failure on each set. You know, each exercise having 3 to 4 sets. But then for the like other 70% of the workout, if I want to go to the gym the next day and work out, I need to pull it back to like a 7 or 8 out of 10 in terms of overall exertion. Otherwise, if I do 10 out of 10 exertion or effort on every single exercise in every set, I'm not going to be able to work out the next day. Like my central nervous system will just be fucked. And the other thing to factor into it is your mental emotional load. So like, for example, for me, when I launched both the podcast and the coaching program last year, suddenly my mental bandwidth got tripled and I just didn't have as much energy. Like I was just more fatigued. Like by the time I got to the weekend, it's not like I was working crazy hours, but it's just because the bandwidth was so much heavier than what I had. I had to like slowly build up the capacity to be able to do that and continue to work out at the level that I work out at. So I just wanted to call out those nuances because I think actually most people don't push themselves hard enough in the gym, but there are people like me who push themselves too hard. And you have to find that balance that's based on kind of age, workload, emotional load, what's going on in your life and your current like physical fitness. But I fucking love that, Cody, because that's super good. Over to you, James.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like same idea, but what I do is I imagine one that I am inside the muscle, right? Like as I'm doing the exercise, like I literally try to imagine the entire muscle contraction and
Nope.
all that. But another thing that I do is meticulously I track my exercises, right? I've been tracking them for years, and so every workout I've got a notebook. I used to use my phone, but it turned into a time sap, and so I would end up scrolling on my phone. Somebody would text me, and then I would get distracted. And so I quit using my phone to track any of my workouts, and I have pen to paper and I write it down every time. And that way, I know that I'm progressing. It's not that like every week I go because there was like before I started tracking it, I would go in and I would bench 225, and then the next week I would bench 225, and then the next week I would bench 225, and I was doing it for the same amount of reps, and so I wasn't getting that progressive overload. And so by writing it all down, and then I'm also every month or two I'm changing whether like the tempo of the lift. I'm either doing 5-second negatives and one up, and then I'm doing all these different things to try to challenge myself, but I'm also tracking the entire time. That way the next time I do that workout, which is typically either later that week or the next week, then I'm adding at least 5 pounds to every exercise, as opposed to like a 2.5 or something. Or if it's something that I did pretty easily, if I got through the whole workout with that, then I'll add 10 pounds or 20 pounds, depending on what it is.
Yeah, there's an awesome app that's fairly inexpensive called Strong. That I've been using for years, and you can create your own exercises and it will track volume for you. So for me, like I'm always trying to do, unless I'm in a deload week, I'm always trying to increase the volume anywhere between like 3 and 5% plus, like week over week, so that I know that I'm creating that progressive overload on my body. And for the audience members who don't know what progressive overload means, like the short and dirty of it is you're just increasing the overall volume of weight moved week over week, which means like essentially your muscles are forced to grow to handle like the increased load. So you can Google it. But yeah, fucking love that, brother. I'm pretty good at not like I'm like getting distracted by my phone. So I love having a digital app because then it actually keeps the history, and I can see the growth charts, which is really fun for me. But I'm a bit of a tracking nerd. So but there's nothing wrong with like old school pen and paper. Like I did that shit for years. So either strategy works. I'm gonna pass it to.
What should we hop to now, Justin? Should we stay on fitness? I got some money stuff. I know we've covered fit rich life. We've covered a lot of fit stuff. We haven't really talked about rich at all. I know we covered some life stuff at the beginning. Should we hop to the rich part?
Let's do some money. Yeah, go for it, Cody.
All right. So here's something that at the very beginning of my financial independence journey, I don't know if I would take this back or change it, but it's kind of a different philosophy that I held. You always hear like the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. And so I'm like, having as many streams of income as possible is going to make me as rich as possible. I actually think that's not true, especially when people are just starting out. I think if you do one thing great and you can build one awesome business, one awesome side hustle, get really great at whatever that like the Pareto principle, whatever that 80% is for you, and you kind of dial in on that and make a shit ton of money with that one great thing, and then you start to add on some of those additional income sources, you're going to be a lot more wealthy than the person who tries to start 10 side hustles at once, spreads themselves too thin, and then none of them are done well. And that was totally me. Like I had like 20 something streams of income for no good reason. Like some of them are making, $50 a month. Someone's making $150 a month. One's making $213 a month. And then another one's making like 25 grand a month. It's like, well, duh, like someone from the outside is like, focus on the one that's making you a shit ton of money and maybe put those other ones to the side. And I don't know. I think just because you hear that so much, it's like the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. And so everyone just tries to get as many streams as possible, where I think most people just starting out would be better served focusing on 1 or 2 streams of income and like really just maxing those out and getting as good as possible as they can be at those, and then adding additional ones on later on once they have like capital to work with.
So my thought on that, I agree with you, but the other part of it is you might not would have known what that one thing was when you first started. And so by doing 7 or 10 or 20 different things, you got to figure out, one, what you were good at, and two, what made you money. Because what you probably thought would be the most successful business wasn't what it was. I think, I'm not sure. It could have been for you, but for other people it might be, like they might be making, I don't know, more money doing something else, but then by spreading themselves across, they figure out, oh, this is actually really successful, or there's an opportunity here where I can pivot and do something different.
I think that's a good point. I think there's definitely a trial period. Like, I just don't think anyone should try to run 10 different side hustles for a year or 2 years at a time. And like, and then once one starts taking off, then you kind of know, like you said, James, like, then this is the one I should probably be putting more eggs into that basket. But yeah, for me, it was just like doing all of these random side hustles that took up my time that weren't making me that much money. And I probably, and again, I probably wouldn't redo what I did, because like the learning lessons are so invaluable that I had from those failed side hustles, the ones that I shut down, like learned so many skills, met cool people. And I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today without having started those. But if it was just from like a financial perspective, I would have made way more money just like going all in on something when it, like, the second I saw the spark, I should have just like dove all in and scrapped the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the maybe the takeaway for the audience is like, don't be afraid to try a bunch of things, but as soon as you identify one that like can really move the needle, like double, triple, like down on that one, or like go like 80% of your energy on that one. But it does take time, because sometimes you're try a few different things and they all kind of suck, and then you finally get one, it starts making money. And I think so don't be afraid to kind of like do like maybe a monthly analysis, like, hey, which endeavor is really returning the most money for the effort that I'm putting into. And as soon as you're able to like see that, then like go full force on that one. James, you got.
The other side of it too is, sorry, yeah, I was gonna say that a lot of people like feel like they have to have a side hustle, and you don't have to have a side hustle. Like you could be crushing it in your day job, and you're spending your weekends fucking driving on Uber when you would be making 10x by just trying to get a promotion or something like that, as opposed to wasting your time doing some gig economy thing. Like it would be much better served like growing yourself, professionally, as opposed to making some money on the side. Now, admittedly, it is like a rush making money yourself that isn't beholden to your job. But if you can make more money doing one of those things, then it makes way more sense to do that as opposed to having a side hustle for the sake of having a side hustle, for the hustle mentality.
I love that. Yeah, so this actually ties perfect to my money tip, and it's also a book that I highly recommend anyone who is financially independent read. It's not necessarily the best book for people who are still on the kind of like money accumulation phase, but I recently finished the book Die with Zero by Bill Perkins, and it has completely transformed how I think about money now. So I used to be like on this like never ending pursuit of like accumulating as much money as possible. And now I'm in this like phase where I'm like, okay, how can I continue to accumulate money, but also really, really proactively build my rich life? And like, what are the things, the lifestyle upgrades, the memories, the experiences that I can create with my wealth, instead of just being like frugal for the point of being frugal, or just earning more money to earn more money. So now I'm not as concerned at all about my net worth. Now I'm like, how can I do more of the stuff that just really lights me on fire, whether that's a money making endeavor or just like something that makes me happy, that's like a great trip or whatever, while also continuing to build my wealth. Because again, like I'm just a firm believer that if you have a good strategy, you can have your cake and eat it too. It's like not all or nothing. So I don't actually like necessarily agree with Bill Perkins. Like I don't want to die with zero, but like I do love the fact that he's like so kind of on the other side of the spectrum that it forced me to come back more into the middle. Like, wait a minute, like what's the point? Like, okay, yes, I could like the faster I become a decamillionaire, the cooler I feel, but that feeling will be like when I became a millionaire and then became a multimillionaire. It's like, fuck yeah, I did it. And then like 2 hours later, I'm like, okay, what are we doing next? You know what I mean? And
What am I in 100 million? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. And it's like you just keep moving the goalposts. So it's like, no, I'm gonna stop. Like I'm gonna still attempt to become a decamillionaire in an efficient manner, but I'm gonna optimize for my best life on the way there. And I'm not going to sacrifice my best life to get to 10 million faster. And that switch has made all the difference. That switch has like really empowered me to like really love living in a fucking much more expensive place than I used to live in. Like I used to live in a place that was like, compared to the places around, it was like every other place was like 2 to 4x as expensive for the same space and size. And now I'm like basically more than doubled my rent, but like my place is so much nicer. I live really close to the beach, and I live in an area that is really like nourishing to the different aspects of myself, like fitness, nature, etc. And so I highly recommend, if you're one of those people who've accumulated a good measure of wealth, read Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. It is just a really great book. You don't need to die with zero, but you should think through kind of the principles and philosophies that he brings up in the book, because it will empower you to live a life that when you look back on it, on your deathbed, you're gonna be like, fuck yeah, I did life good.
It's probably a book I should have mentioned at the beginning when I was talking about like why do I need more money for what reason? Like unless I'm wanting to drive a Lambo and fly a private jet, like do I really need to be working on this? No, it's kind of what you were just saying, Justin, is like I'm going to build wealth my way, like the optimized way, the way that makes me feel good about my life.
Yeah, I actually want to piggyback on that. Sorry, but I was gonna say, because I'm actually looking at it from a different perspective. Like we're talking about it from three young, healthy guys, and I'm like looking at it from. I've been having this conversation with my wife's family because they're in a completely different situation than my family. Like my mom could never retire; she doesn't have any money. But my wife's family is on the other end of the spectrum. Like they've put off retiring so much, and now they have more money than they need, or like, and they're still concerned about money. And so I'm trying to talk to them about like the utility of money goes down as you get older, because my wife, her grandfather's still alive, and like when he passes, it's inevitable, but when he passes, he has a nice like substantial nest egg that he's going to pass down to her parents. And so it's like that money, they already have enough now, and now they're going to even receive even more. But it's like in 10 years, whenever they receive that, or 5 years, whenever it may happen, they're not going to be taking week-long trips across Europe, or like staggering around like on these cobblestone streets. And so the utility of money actually goes down as you get older, but the memories that you can have now as opposed to then, it absolutely makes sense to spend money on doing things. And so this is a conversation that I've had with them multiple times, because it's like I lost my dad at a very young age, and I tell them, I'm like, I would give anything to have a day with my dad. And your daughter is retired and you are retired, and she's like wanting to go on trips with you while you can physically still do it, and you're like, no, like we've got this project at work, and they were putting off retiring so long. And it was just like such a frustrating thing to come at from our perspective of, you have enough money, the math makes sense, like there's no reason that you should still be working. And they're like, well, we want to leave more money for you. And we're like, we don't need the money, we don't need the money even now. So it's like, what are we going to do with it in 50 years? It makes no sense. But anyways, so I thought that was like a very apt thing that we're talking about right now.
Yeah. I just want to go ahead, Cody.
I was gonna say real quick, I just saw a really good quote, and you can replace kids. I don't have kids. Do you guys have kids? No, and James, I know you don't. Justin. Okay, replace kids with like significant others or it's like family members, but it was like the only people who are going to remember that you worked late over the past 20 years are your kids. And I was like, damn, like that's so true. Like your boss, at the end of the day, he's gonna be like, great, you worked late, but they don't really give a shit. Like the only people who are gonna remember are the ones who are closest to you. So if you're, working late and not going on trips with your daughter, or your significant other or other family members, like those are the people that I'm gonna remember. It's not gonna be the boss that you're trying to impress for no good reason.
Yeah. And I think what people miss is they think they can go like have fun like when they retire, or when they like quit their job or whatever. But what they fail to think about is like going on a trip in your 30s or your 40s, when like your health and fitness is like at its optimum level, is infinitely different than going on a trip when you're 50, 60, or 70. Like you just don't have as much energy. Eventually you hit kind of like the peak of your like fitness and health, and it starts to decline. And you can extend the peak, you can go higher, but everyone, all of us, myself included, like at some point we hit the peak and then we're on the decline. And so what Bill Perkins argues in the book is like you actually need to time bucket your life out and optimize for the experiences that you can really like enjoy and only do at certain ages, right? So like, Cody, you mentioned snowboarding. Like, you can do that like while you're young. Like when you're 70, snowboarding is going to be like pretty fucking risky, like to be honest. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like I'm not a fan
Yeah.
of snowboarding or skiing because like I'm not a fan of getting injured. But like for me, it's like, what are the things like traveling? Just like, is it going to be fun for me to travel and go crush gyms like when I'm 70 versus now? Like no, like now in my like 40s and 50s, like that's gonna be like awesome. And like I could probably still do that in my 60s and 70s, but it's gonna be less like potentially less enjoyable, right? Or like I won't be able to go as to the gym as many times during the trip. And so these are just things that we need to think through, is like what are the things, the experiences at different kind of like time buckets within our life that we need to optimize doing for our 20s or our 30s, or from like age 40 to 55. And then like what are the things that we can kind of like push off, like you know what I mean, that are more chill things that like you can like sit around and like read books and like go to the like whatever the local musical like in your 70s. You know what I mean? Like that's super chill stuff. So I really love that. Awesome. Who wants to go next with an upgrade?
I got a tip.
Go for it.
It's something I've been thinking about a lot because none of my friends listen to me about investing. And So I posted this and it went semi-viral on Twitter, but I mean, it's just math. You guys know how compound interest works, but like a lot of people, when they see it out, like, holy shit. But so if you would like want to be set up for the rest of your life and retiring by 30, I'm actually working on a book with that title. If you can save up $250,000 and like have it invested in like a total stock market index fund, for example, VTI, VTSAX, Schwab or Fidelity, pick your poison, just 250K. And I know I'm saying that like just 250K. It's possible. There's plenty of people who have done it. And there's probably some high earners who listen to this show who maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, but live like a college student, live like a bum for a couple of years, get that. If you can get that 250K invested by age 30 and you don't touch it again until retirement age 65, you'll have over $3 million at retirement. And like, I just like showing people that figure and they're like, what? Like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, like it's really not that I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's simple. Like, it's a very simple process. Like, it's a tried and true method. Like, the stock market's been around for 100 something years and it's semi-predictable and over a long period of time. And like, people just don't do it. Like I've had friends who have been trying to start a Roth IRA for them for years and they won't do it. I'm like, guys, like, you're missing out on some of the most valuable years of compound interest. Like, if you can get this shit right when you're young, you are just set up for the rest of your life. But a lot of people just in their 40s or 50s, they're like, holy shit, I have nothing saved for retirement. And then they scramble. And even though they have probably a higher earning capacity during those years, they missed out on all those early years of compounding. So if you have hopefully some young listener who's listening right now, like, please open that investment account, like, live as frugally as possible for as long as possible until you can build up a decent sized nest egg. And then you can say, fuck it, and get the nicer apartment and car if you really want to, and you're already set. But seriously, like, 250K invested, you don't even have to contribute another dollar. You'll have over $3 million at retirement age. Like, it's not rocket science.
Yeah, I'm just gonna double down on that. It doesn't even matter. Like, if you're in your 30s or even in your 40s, it's never too late to start. Like, I literally I was negative 80K in debt, like up until, like, that's the height of my debt, up until like age like 34 or 35. And then I was like, I kind of like had my phi awakening, as I like to call it. And I was like, what the fuck? And I went like nuts and like, basically accumulated over $1 million in assets in 2 years. So it's like, even if you're in your 30s and 40s and you're in debt, it's never too late to build up that money, because now all that money that I put in is going to carry me through the rest of my life. And for the listeners who are paying attention, like, I'm totally upgrading my lifestyle, but I chose for 2 years to be hyper frugal, to build up that like financial snowball, that money snowball that will now continue to roll down the mountain and accumulate and get bigger and bigger, faster and faster, with no extra work from me. And then of course I'm like, fuck it, why not add to that snowball while I'm having fun, living my best life. So I don't care if you're 30 and in debt, 40 in debt, 50 in debt. Like, literally, you could start this week and like literally be like, I'm gonna get out of debt. I'm gonna build up that wealth, like nest egg that will carry me through the rest of my life. And that may mean some short-term sacrifices, but the long-term gains and overall life happiness, satisfaction, ability to have incredible experiences will be with you for the rest of your life. So absolutely love that one, Cody.
I was just going to say, on the same note as that, is the same way that we move the goalpost for like the next goal that we want to reach. A lot of people do the same thing, but for the debt or for whatever it is, right? They're like, or starting a 401k or an IRA. They're like, when I get this promotion, or when my kids are not in, daycare anymore and they're in public school, then I'm going to have all that money that I would be able to use. And all that money just seeps its way back out. And people are like, when I get the next year's raise, I'm going to contribute all that money. And then that money comes and they're like, oh, okay. Like, and a lot of it's not like a big lifestyle upgrade. It's just like little things that add up, and it's not intentional about their spending. And so it's just a constantly moving goalpost. When I get here, I'm going to start saving money. And then next thing you know, they're 50 and don't have $1. And so then they've got to scramble and try to figure out everything. So if you can't save $10,000, like, you're not going to get to $1 million, right? You got to start somewhere and you got to work your way up.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. So one of the things I coach my clients, all my clients are now investors, like every single one of them, because I'm like, I don't care if you invest $20 a month. Like, you just need to start, because what happens is you start at, let's call it, you invest $50 a week. So at the end of every month, you've invested $100. Then at the end of, say, 6 months, you're like, holy shit, like I've like invested like, $600. Like, okay, cool. Now, like, I think I could up that to like $100 a week. Like, and so then, like, cause I'm the type of person that invests, right? And like, then you're like, oh, 50 wasn't that hard. 100, you do 100 for a few weeks or a few months or whatever. And then you're like, oh, I could up that even more. I could do like 200 a week. And then you start to see over time that like all that money start to grow. And then you start to identify yourself as an investor. So like literally, if you're like, and you can do the same thing with like your debt, but I always, even people who are in debt, I recommend starting to invest just to start to build the habit of becoming like a regular investor, as well as start to like create that mindset shift that like, hey, this is just part of what I do. Right. And so there's the best place to start is exactly where you're at. And the best time to start is today.
Mm-hmm.
And another key part of it is, sorry, Cody. Another key part of it is, I think that automating your investing, which is kind of what you were talking about, Justin, and when you cut an expense, like if you cut your phone bill down from $70 to $25, immediately go and change your automatic contributions to $40 more for a month, right? And everywhere you can cut a corner, everywhere you can cut a cost, then you go and you automatically make that money go somewhere, because every dollar needs a job.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's kind of like the gym, right? It's like if you even show up for 5 minutes and just build that habit, and you're a gym going person, then all of a sudden that 5 minutes is going to turn to 10 to 20 to an hour. And kind of like the investing, you might be investing $20 a month, and then you wake up in 20 years and you're investing like $1,000 a month. And it just happens in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, and people don't realize how freaking easy it is with like apps and stuff now to like just become an investor. Like you can literally set up automatic like weekly investments, put into an S&P 500, and like full disclaimer, like this is not like, professional financial advice. This show is purely for entertainment, but seriously, you can literally just like use, I think there's one called Public. That's a really good app. You could use Robinhood. You could sign up with Schwab, that has a great app and a great system. And you can literally just like choose an S&P 500 ETF, like VTI is a great one. There's, every brokerage has their own S&P 500, and literally just put in like $25 a week. Like we can all like skip one DoorDash and put that $25 into S&P 500, and we can automate that. And like before we know it, we'll look back like, and I'm speaking as if I'm an audience member who hasn't done this yet, and you'll be like, holy shit, like I got $1,000 invest in the stock market. This is fucking rad. So information is potential power. Knowledge is potential power. Action is what takes that knowledge and makes it meaningful. So literally, like if you're listening to this podcast, don't just be like, oh yeah, that's good, and then go continue your mental masturbation with other great podcasts, but actually like just freaking spend 15 minutes downloading Public, Robinhood, Schwab, and open up that account and like start that automatic investment. You can literally just Google how to set up automatic investing on XYZ. And literally someone will have made a YouTube video about it. You spend 7 minutes watching that, another 7 minutes doing it, and holy shit, you're an investor. So take action today.
And for the people who are listening, who are like, fuck that, I'm just going to keep the money in my high yield savings account. Like I'm getting 4% right now. That's awesome. If I were to have done that, these are real numbers. If I were to have just put all the money I earn into a bank account instead of investing in the stock market and real estate, my net worth would be $800,000 less right now. That's just like free, quote unquote, free money.
$800K less? Is that what you said?
$800K less if I were to just put that in a bank account. Like, and I haven't been investing for that long. I'm 27 years old. So like, imagine what that's going to do over the next 30 years or so. Like, it's just insane what compound interest can do once you start investing early. Like, yeah, start today, build the habit. If you can, like, contribute as much as you possibly can, whether that's $20 a month or whether that's $500 a month. And if you're someone who doesn't spend a lot, like right now, like, you're, again, live like a college kid. That's what I did for like the first 3 years. And I just invested everything I made. I was saving like 85-90% of my money, and it paid huge dividends at the end.
Yeah, I did the same thing in my mid 30s. Like, I got a fucking late start, but I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go nuts. And 80 to 90% savings rate, and I got to like FI in like 2 to 3 years. So I'm gonna do.
What'd you bring up there?
Yeah. So
Yeah, what did you pick up?
yeah. So the what I love about this conversation right now is we're talking about investing for the long term. So, I'm a bit older than you guys. I was trying to do math, and I was like, I can't even do simple math.
Couple
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Couple years.
So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm a decade older than you guys almost. And one of the things I really been thinking about is like my longevity. Like, I love to be fit. I love to work out, but like, what are the things I need to do now to be able to continue to do the things that I love 10 years from now, 20 years from now? So I have great knees. I've never had problems with my knees, knock on wood, but I know like knee stuff like can creep up for a lot of people. So I've been doing kind of like just a lot of research and exploration, and like R&D just on like what are the things that I need to build up. And for my birthday, I got myself a tib bar, raise thing. So basically, you put like and for those of you who can't see this, it's this little metal contraption that you thread your feet through right here, and then you're able to actually like pull your toes towards your knees, and you put weight on the end of the bar, so you're actually doing what is called tib raises, and this works the front part of your shin or the front part of your calves. So you actually have muscles that go through the front part of your leg where your shins are, and by strengthening your tibialis, which is the muscle that runs through the front of your shin, it actually really makes your knees like super bulletproof. So you can actually do tib raises just by like leaning against a wall and then putting your feet maybe like 6 to 8 inches away from the wall, and then just pulling your toes towards the ceiling or towards your knees. And like, you can just do like 20-30 reps of those. The farther you put your heels out, the harder it gets. Or you can invest in a tib bar like I did, and you can put like weight on this tib bar. They make ones that connect to dumbbells. This one uses plates, and they have ones that you can do one leg at a time or two legs at a time. But so now, like once or twice a week, I do tib raises, because like I want to be able to like trail run when I'm like 75, like, and not hardcore sprinting, but just like jogs through the trails and like be hiking at like 90. And so that's one of the kind of like longevity upgrades that I've invested in, is now I do like tib raises at least once a week, if not twice a week. Go ahead, James.
So I have done something that's the exact opposite. I have done a longevity downgrade. So what I what I did was, and I this is like incredibly apt because I've just gotten over it, but I had a knee injury because we were in the Azores, and we saw this like beautiful view, and there was like a pole in the way, and there was like a cliff, and I was like, I'm gonna crawl up here to get an Instagram photo, and my wife was like, do not do that, please don't do that. And I was like, at this point, it was a challenge. Like, I was like, I got to get up this little like thing, and so I completely committed to it, and I put my foot on a rock, and then I grabbed onto this pole and like literally just vaulted myself up. And when I did, one of the rocks broke out of the ground, and I fell to the ground, but the rock landed on my knee. And I genuinely thought that I had shattered my kneecap. Like, I thought that the cap itself was broken, and like it swelled up pretty big. And I was like hobbled for quite a few days. And I thought, I'm gonna wait till we get to Lisbon, because that was the next point in the trip. I was like, I'm gonna wait till we get to Lisbon, and I'm gonna see, like if I need to go to the hospital, it probably makes more sense to go in a big city than it does on this little island that we were on. And luckily, I'm okay now. The swelling's gone down. I've put ice on it. I've done all these things, and I just squatted today, like pretty heavy for the first time since I did it. But so now I'm definitely like interested in getting a tib bar because I just messed up my knee pretty bad. It was incredibly difficult to go up or down steps, and everywhere we went were steps, and so
Yeah.
and we walked most places, and I actually made it a point because I told my wife, I was like, one, I should have listened to you, but two, I'm not going to take it easy on myself because I did this. I was like, anything you want to do, we're going to do. And I just had to hobble around the whole time because, again, it was just another challenge for myself. I was like, I'm the idiot that made this decision. And so I'm going to have to live with it, which includes walking up the 7 hills of Lisbon with a dodgy knee. So,
Yeah. I'll put a link in the show notes for the tib bar. It's by a company called Catalyst. You can get it on Amazon. And James, I'll send you the link. I really like this one. It's so like, it's a fun tool to use. I have one that is a single leg too, in case I want to work like my knees independent, but I haven't tried it yet. But again, you can just do tib raises against the wall when you're traveling. But I think getting an actual tib bar, like for your home, like then you can really like actually put on some serious weight. And then when you travel, you can just do tib raises against the wall. So that's like, to me, like investing in your longevity is something that you need to, it's good to do it at any age, but as you get older and older, you need to be more like, you have to become a stronger and stronger investor in your like, just because it's kind of like the inverse, right? So at the beginning of your financial career in your 20s, the like kind of the sooner you invest, like the better, and then you can kind of like slow down. And then it's the reverse. Like when you're young, you don't need to worry as much about investing in your longevity. But then as you get older, you need to think more and more like, how do I invest in my longevity? And it's never too early to start. But like, that's just one of the things I think about. And for you guys who are younger, like one of the things I would encourage you is like, literally put on as much muscle mass as possible right now, because it's easier to do, because eventually you hit this point in your age where it's actually hard to put on additional like muscle mass, like infinitely harder, like in your say mid 40s and 50s than it is when you're in your 20s and 30s. So like I would even like encourage, like, and I encourage all my clients, like, optimize for putting on muscle mass in your 20s and 30s, and then kind of in your 40s and beyond, like just optimize for maintaining that muscle mass, mobility, and longevity, and like staying injury free.
I know you didn't mention these before, Justin, about podcasts to listen to, but I actually just recently started doing tib work because of Peter Attia and Andrew Huberman.
100%.
I don't know if you listen to either of those dudes, but okay.
Dude, I fucking love those podcasts too. I can't believe I totally forgot both of them as well. Good call.
I'm like, there's no way this is a coincidence, because I started doing that too. I'm like, I'd never ever work out my tibia, like ever. Yeah. So unless I'm just like hiking and like happen to use it, but yeah, I never did it at the gym.
Yeah, the cool thing is it'll actually improve like your squat and stuff. So James, like for you, like in your powerlifting, it'll actually improve your ability to squat, and it just makes it gives you, like, as you work through it, you're building strength through range of motion, which strength through range of motion is like a really powerful thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what a Jefferson curl is, but it's like this really weird deadlift type thing that you do, where basically it's very dangerous to do. Like, so I don't recommend people like doing it unless you start super light and super slow and watch some YouTube videos. But basically, like, you stand on a platform and you will, like, this is an exercise where you actually want to like curl your back or roll your back, and you basically like instead of like a deadlift, you traditionally just like slowly lower the weight to the ground with your back kind of staying straight. With a Jefferson curl, you actually like roll your back down, and then you actually keep pulling that weight down, and then because you're at the end of a platform, the weight actually goes below your feet. And this is an incredible way to build flexibility through like the rear part of your posterior chain. So like I do this once a week, and literally when I go like lay on the ground or like sit on the ground with my feet out front, like my freaking hands are like this far in front of my feet. Like that's how freaking flexible I am through my posterior chain, just because I do this one move once a week. And then like I can easily just like, because it's funny, James, when we talked on our podcast, you actually talked about your flexibility, about not even be able to like touch your toes. So like this is funny that we're bringing this back. So that's an incredible move to like build strength through like the end of a range of emotion. So just wanted to go ahead, Cody.
If we're doing like weird body part workouts,
Yeah.
something I've been working out a lot more because of Andrew Huberman actually has been my neck.
I knew you were
And the
going to
reason for
say
that is because for anyone who does like high speed, high impact sports like snowboarding, skiing, even rollerblading, skateboarding, any of those, like you take a spill and you hit your neck, you want to have as much like muscle padding as possible so you don't snap your spinal cord and die. So I'm like, oh shit, like I haven't really been working out my neck at all. So I actually started incorporating that. My gym has a neck machine. I used to do it back in high school. I weighed a lot more and I was more muscular in high school, and I just like stopped doing neck for some reason. I think I did it because of football, and I just stopped doing it. But now, like after I took my spill snowboarding, hurt my shoulder, I'm like, that was my neck. Like I haven't been working my neck. Like maybe I don't have enough neck muscle to thwart off a spinal injury. So been doing that at the gym like once, sometimes twice a week.
Yeah. So this is a baton. So this is a 5-pound baton. So like your neck and your traps, like it's all like connected to your shoulder girdle, and like my fucking neck used to get like pinched all the time. Like I would like, if I was like chest pressing too much or doing too many pull-ups in a given week, this whole area like in my traps would just like lock up, and it would like literally to the point where it kind of made me feel like nauseous. And then I started working with like a 5-pound baton, and like just like doing these different swing motions that you learn. And now like my shoulder like flexibility and strength through the range of the motion is just so much greater. And like now my neck, knock on wood, almost never like gets locked up, and like it's just been totally game changing. So you can just like, I'll put a link to it. This one's from On It, which is a great company that makes some really cool fitness equipment as well as like some awesome supplements. But it is like game changing in terms of not only kind of like just building that strength through the neck, the shoulders, but also your wrists and your elbows. Which it's like these joints that you really have to start to think about as you get older. Like when you're younger, your joints are like, oh yeah, cool. Like I'm going to go fucking like snowboard and jump off like a 20-foot, like, like jump. And like, I'm fine. And then you're older and you're like, wait a minute, I got to think about protecting these different joints and not climbing up a mountain and doing stupid shit that my wife told me not to do.
Oh man. Too true.
Awesome. So, let's see. I want to start to wind this down so that we can all get back to doing our awesome life. Let's do like a round where we each share one fitness, money, and life tip, tool, or strategy. It's kind of what we've been doing, but kind of like a more formalized version as we kind of just like round this down. So does anyone have a fitness one that they think like, and this is like a leave behind for like anyone, like, it could be something super unique, or it could be something that you just learned, similar to what we've been doing. I just want to do kind of like a rapid round of fitness, money, and life tips, tools, and strategies. Do anyone have a good fitness one they want to kick off with?
Are we allowed to repeat?
Sure. Yeah. Double click on whatever you think is really important.
I guess the one that I was gonna say, the one that probably has had the biggest impact was the going to a failure. And again, that was something that I wasn't doing before. It was like a 10 rep thing. I probably could have eked out one or two more. Wasn't doing it. I probably could have put up 5 or 10 more pounds. And now I'm making sure that. And I'm 27. I know you mentioned there's some nuance in that, Justin. I have a lot of energy. Like I could probably go to a failure every workout, and I wasn't. So now that's something I've been focusing on a lot. I think it's important.
100%. I think you should up until like your mid to late 30s. James, you got one?
Yeah, so my fitness hack, something that I wasn't doing initially when I was younger, but now I've been doing it, and I've been doing it more and more, is spending 10 to 15 minutes, if not 30 minutes, probably closer to that, at the beginning of my workout, going through like active range of motion. It's not just static stretching, because I actually think that hurts your muscular performance during the workout. Now, afterwards, you can definitely stretch, but I think that dynamic stretching, and I actually, every workout I go through and I do like shoulder mobility stuff, whether that's like interior rotation, exterior rotation, like 90-degree. I do like a internal rotation, like behind my back. I do all these different things, and I'm doing like a lot of back exercises. And I essentially, like, there's the Agile 8. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with that.
Mm.
It's a pre-workout like stretch, but I've taken that and kind of adapted it and done my own things. Some of them I do, some of them I don't. It's like cat cow, it's hip exercises, it's doing all these things, but it's not just like sitting there and trying to touch my toes like 5 times. It's like I'm rolling on my back and flipping over and like coming up and trying to touch my toes after that, right? And so it's like doing that, I think, has been incredible. One, for my mobility, I've gotten better range of motion. My squats are better, my deadlifts are better. I'm like actively thinking about things before I'm doing them, so it's not like I just hop on a bench and I start benching. I'm actually working through like my back mobility and making sure that I can get a better arch, and all these different types of things, and making sure that my body is warmed up appropriately for the exercise that I'm doing. And so that's something that I've taken to heart recently, because I'm trying to work on my longevity to make sure that I don't have any major injuries leading up that's going to take me out of the game for a few months.
Yeah, I love that. For my fitness one, I'm going to bring up another like fun show and tell. So this is arnica cream. And this is just like a plant-based, like fragrance-free, like pain relief for muscle pain, stiffness, and like swelling from injuries and bruises. So like my mom like introduced me to shit when I was like 10 years old, and I just the other day was like, I should get some more arnica. So I'll put a link in the show notes, but I just found this on Amazon. It's by a company called Boron or something like that. And it's just like, if I have any stiffness in any of my joints or like in my neck, or just like really fucking crushed a muscle and I'm like sore, like I just put some of it on, and it just like, it makes the pain go away, and it feels better. And I feel like it helps that area recover faster. So that's like my fitness tip. Who's got a money tip for us? Go for it, Cody.
All right, I'll take this one. So I know I mentioned some big numbers before, and people are like, I know I mentioned, invest 250K by 30, you'll have over 3 million in retirement. But it doesn't have to be that fancy and complicated. If you start again, I always use like my age as a benchmark. If you start around like 27 and you make $16 a day and invest it, at retirement age, that money will be over $1 million. Like, it doesn't have to be a ton of money. You can do this, and all you have to do is like literally find something that makes you $16 a day. That could be a gig economy job if you want to go that route. You could build your own thing. You could sell digital products. There's so many different ways. I mean, I'm sure people are brainstorming right now. Like, $16 a day is all it takes to hit millionaire status at retirement. And then I get the pushback. Well, what's $1 million going to be at retirement age? That's not the point. 55% of Americans don't have enough. Like, they feel like they don't have enough. I think 27% of them have $0 saved at retirement. Like, the numbers are just abysmal. But if you can be someone who makes and invests $16 a day, you are going to be in the 90th percentile.
Over how many years do you have to invest that 16 for it to become $1 million?
It's like, I think it was 35 I used here, assuming like a 7.5% compound interest.
Yeah, I love that one. Awesome. James, you got one for us?
Yeah, I'm going to help you save those $16 a day, right? So
Here we go.
this has been a travel tip that we've been doing ourselves. So, and especially in foreign countries, but particularly anywhere really, I guess, at airports, there are ridiculous surcharges that are added to Uber and Lyft and all these different things. They have surge pricing. Some airports don't even allow you to get picked up or dropped off. So one thing that we've been doing is we've been taking a free airport shuttle to one of the hotels. We tip the driver, and then from there we get an Uber, and it has saved us probably like $50 in Uber fees because we've been traveling so much. So every time you go to an airport, and the other important part of this is, I do want to mention this, the driver doesn't get any of those fees. That money goes straight to Uber or to Lyft or whoever it is. The driver gets paid the exact same per mile driven, so it doesn't matter what they're getting paid, right? And so we tip the driver for the shuttle, and then that is saving us more money then once we're at the airport, or sorry, once we're at the hotel, then we go to our destination with an Uber. So we're gonna help you save that $16. This is a frugality hack, and sometimes it's not worth it. I'm gonna say, like, sometimes we get somewhere and we're like, let's just get a fucking Uber, like, let's leave, right? But then there are other times where, and we only travel with carry-ons, and so it's much easier for us to walk right out of the airport. All the flights have just gotten there, and we just hop on the first shuttle we see, we take out and get out of the airport, and then from there we order an Uber.
I fucking love that. And just like fasting is a tool that you keep in your tool belt, frugality is a tool that you keep in your tool belt. So like all three of us are super frugal in weird ways in different parts of our life, but we also like spend lavishly in the areas that we really like, are important to us. And there's also like, it's the same thing, like, throughout life, like when you're building up your wealth, like James, like this is just like fun for him. He doesn't always do it, but like if James, was at the beginning of his, money accumulation phase, like he would always be doing this because it would just speed him along even faster up until he gets that snowball built up big enough. So like it could be, and again, it's mindset is everything. Like for James, like even for me, like that sounds like a fun adventure. Like I don't need to do that, but I'd want to try it at least once. And then like if my wife is okay with it, like whenever we can do it, it would just be like, oh cool, this is like one more like strategy to like save an extra $50 and I can, do something else with it. So I love that. My money tip is actually going to be a little bit more kind of like esoteric or spiritual, because I know there are just a lot of people get scammed out of money. And I just want to bring this up. If anything ever feels like weird, you get this kind of like weird gut feeling when someone's asking you to like, invest money in something or like do something, or you get a phone call and they say like, hey, this is your bank and da 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 da. Like it's not your bank. Your bank is never going to call you ever. The IRS is never going to call you ever. They will never call you. They will send you a legal letter, and it's probably a scam. So I just want to do a friendly kind of money reminder to people. If things seem a little bit weird, don't be afraid to like just pause, slow down. And then if you have a partner, pause and tell your partner like, hey, like I just got this call from my bank, but they've never called me before. Don't be afraid to like share it that you're not sure what's going on, because like there's nothing wrong with looking like unsure or even stupid if you prevent yourself from making a mistake. And like I've been scammed out of like 10 grand before, like in a real estate deal, like back like when I was in my 20s. My wife almost got scammed out of like $20,000, supposedly from like, the bank calling her and telling her that she needed to like do X, Y, and Z and move money from one account to another. And, shame loves secrets, right? And like most of us have been scammed or done something really stupid with our money. And one of the best ways to get over money shame is to share that with like your significant other or share it with a friend, because then you don't have to like pretend like you're perfect and you never make any mistakes. So it's both like if you've made a dumb money mistake, don't be afraid to share it. If you feel like maybe something weird is going, like slow down, don't be afraid to tell someone what's going on, so it helps you to start to look at the picture in more ways than just kind of your own limited view. So that's my money tip, is like just kind of like release your money shame, and also don't be afraid to like be like, I don't know what I'm doing, or this seems weird, or is like I'm getting a funny feeling. Just like pause, slow down, and like enroll some people to like help you figure it out. So that's my
Love that.
Let's do life. Go ahead, James.
So I'm going to talk about a concept called time subjective expansion, right? And so what this means is essentially when you're traveling, time feels like it slows down, and it actually does in your mind, right? So like we've been traveling for a month now, and it feels like we've been gone for like 3 months, 6 months. It's like, it feels like it's been so long. but that's because you're taking in so many new um, stimuli, right? Whether it's sounds, whether it's like I'm driving on the wrong side of the road now, and so that's like really taking a mental toll on me. And like beaches and just seeing different things and all these monuments and all this art and music and hearing new languages and all these things, right? So essentially, what your mind does is when you have the same day to day monotony, essentially that gets shortened down. So people are like, where do the years go? And that's because they're living the same days over and over again, and their brain just compresses that information because there was nothing good there. Essentially, not that it wasn't good, but there's nothing new, and so your brain can shorten it to save space, right? It's essentially just like a big microchip trying to save all the space. And so by traveling and spending time doing things that you don't normally do, you are actually slowing time down for yourself mentally as well. And so you get to notice things differently. And so you're getting to experience new things with your spouse or even by yourself, right? And when you come back to wherever you're at, you have a new outlook and you have these incredible memories that are incredibly detailed because your mind has slowed everything down for you while you're traveling. So time subjective expansion.
I'm gonna double click on that because like you don't even have to travel to a new city. You could literally just go do new shit in your city. Like that's what I did during my staycation. I was like, I want to map out a rollerblading route, and I went through all these like neighborhoods and parts of the beach like front that I'd never been to, and I was like, I'll never forget that because I literally did that on my birthday. Like I just went rollerblade exploring with my wife on my birthday, and I will never forget my 41st birthday because it was the first time I ever rollerbladed Santa Cruz. And so like I love that like life strategy because like you can travel's an easy one. Like that's a fucking home run. Like you're literally gonna like slow time down, but you can do this in your own hometown by going to a new hike, like checking out like, you know, whatever the tourist attractions are, like go see those. Like there's that's such a good one, James. I just fucking love that. Cody, over to you, brother.
Oh, man, I've got to follow that one up. Okay, mine was something that's changed over the past couple of years for me recently is paying for speed. And what I mean by that is you can DIY almost anything. You can DIY like your fitness. You can watch all these YouTube videos and figure out the workouts you want to do and figure out your diet. You can figure out how to start a side hustle, or you could pay someone who's already gone through all that shit, probably not a huge significant amount, and just shortcut all of that work. And before, like I was such a DIY or die guy, like I would spend 50 hours between YouTube and Google learning something. And now I'm like, if there's like a mini course, if there's a one-on-one person I can pay for this to just learn it in an hour or a couple of hours, and you know, it's a couple $100, like my God, that time is so much more valuable than that money I'm going to spend on that thing. And so that's something that's like really helped me, whether it's like, you know, a fitness thing, whether you need to hire like a fitness coach or someone to help you with your workouts, or like let's say a real one for me was like I wanted to learn Google ads. I could have like just taken hours and hours and hours to learn Google ads, just the DIY approach like I did with Facebook ads, which sucked and it was a bitch. Or I went and hired someone to help me and it took me like an hour or two to figure out Google ads. So like paying for speed, yes, you can DIY almost anything, but if you want to get things done faster and right and skip out on the mistakes that you're inevitably going to make, and you're in the financial position to do so, if you're right at the beginning of your journey, you're in a ton of debt, don't do this, just do the DIY approach. But if you have a little bit of a financial cushion, you have some financial comfortability, like pay for that speed, get it done right, learn how to do it from an expert, whether that's through a course or one-on-one coaching or mentorship, whatever. Just, yeah, you can skip out on so many of those hard lessons by just...
Yeah, I fucking love that one because this is where like we talked earlier in the episode, when you identify that endeavor that like just is like surpassing all the others in terms of the money making, you can be hyper frugal, but like when you identify that one place that's like can make you a ton of money, that's where you want to invest in like getting the coaching, doing the like the course on it, you know, hiring someone to help you like ramp up that business faster because they can like, you know, do the post production or whatever, like the busy work or shit that like you can do, but like it is not the best use of your time. So like 100%, like that's what I really been exploring now is like, what are the things that I can like pay people to do or that I can like learn hyper fast by investing in coaching or whatever. So I don't have to spend, you know, 1 year, like, getting to the place I want, but instead I can get there in 1 month because I decided to like invest in speed. So love that one, Cody. Mine is a question that will really just empower you to um, do life better. And the question is, are you chasing happiness or are you chasing meaning? And it's a subtle difference because, science actually shows that people who are like seeking to get like more happiness are actually less happy because they basically are focusing on the gap between the level of happiness that they want and the level of happiness that they're currently at. But if you instead shift your focus to meaning, like doing meaningful work, creating meaningful relationships, having a meaningful like exercise and fitness lifestyle, and really focus on that, the natural byproduct of chasing meaning and living a meaningful life is happiness, right? And that at the end of a life of pursuing meaning, you will not only like live a life worth living, but you will touch and inspire the hearts and minds of others. And in that way, you will live on eternally. And so that's my kind of life strategy, is just make sure that whether it's in your relationships, whether it's in your work, whether it's in your, mindset around fitness, that you are pursuing meaning. So that's my one. Any last topics, subjects, business services of your own that you want to promote, products that you're sponsored by that you want to share, or any other thing that you guys want to like talk about before we shut this bad boy down?
I think we covered a lot of ground here. No, I got no other topics. We can, I mean, James and I can tell people where to find us if you want to do that now.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, if you like podcasts, you'll probably enjoy listening to my podcast, The Financial Independent Show, where we highlight awesome people like the two other guys on the screen right here who have achieved financial independence or are on their way to achieving financial independence. So it's like a whole variety of guests who have gone a whole different variety of routes getting there. So yeah, got that going on. And then my main company that I run is called Gold City Ventures, where we teach people.
Yeah, and I'm personally, your podcast is one of the financial independence podcasts that I still listen to, because you actually cover a lot of entrepreneurship. Like, you have a ton of people on your show that are like just like entrepreneurs that are like making like $100 million and like building like 7 different businesses and stuff. And so like I highly encourage, whether you're financially independent or whether you're just starting on your journey, Cody's show, the Financial Independence Show, is like super great, like packed with actionable insight, and I'm a huge fan. James, where's the best place for people to find you and connect with you online?
Yeah, so my wife and I are probably most active on social media at on Instagram at Rethink the Rat Race, and at our website Rethink the Rat Race, you can find a ton of information on real estate investing, financial independence, whether that's short-term rentals, long-term rentals. We have a couple of free things there for your listeners as well. They can see it pretty easily on the link there. It's a little button that says free stuff, so you can click that and find all our free stuff.
Hell yeah. Well, everyone, you can find me at Justin David Carl everywhere online, fitrich.life.com. And what would be most meaningful to me from the listeners is leave the show a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple. And I'm now going to be moving into full video production on YouTube. So you can watch all these beautiful faces of the guests that I have on. So subscribing and commenting on YouTube would be awesome. And then of course, like if you found something useful, share this with a friend. Like, this is like, we're all in this thing called life together. And when we work together, we go so much farther, so much faster, and have so much fucking more fun. So boys, thanks for coming on the show. Fucking love you guys. Super excited. Anything big coming up that you guys want to announce? I mean, Cody just got fucking married, which is rad. James is traveling the world, but any new projects coming that you want to give people like a heads up about?
No, I mean, we probably just follow along with us on social media. You'll hear the updates. Nothing huge like coming up immediately. I do have a book that I'm working on, but I don't know when that's going to come out. So
Hell yeah.
not going to tease it yet.
You're gonna beat me. You get just doing everything I want to do, like at a younger age than me. But I fucking love it because you're an inspiration to me, brother.
Thanks, man.
James, anything you want to mention?
Well, I bought the domain name because I wanted to start a book, but I didn't want to mention it over here. So I just bought a domain name so that I can write a book. And now I guess all three of us are gonna try to
There we
write a
go.
book.
Well, it's a
Finish
race.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're gonna win. I'm not even that far along.
Perfect.
So,
Well, so this is funny. So the reason I revamped my newsletter, which is the Fit Rich Life newsletter, is every week I share a tip, tool, strategy for fitness, for money, and for life. And it's like a 2 to 5 minute read, is because after a year, I'm pretty much going to have a book written. And that's literally what I'm forcing myself to write every week. So I have a book written at the end of a year. So I guess we're all working on books. So fuck yeah. Good work, guys. And so good to connect with you. Thanks for coming on the show.